Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you for joining our workshop, which is sponsored and funded by Google under their Explore CSR program. In this workshop, we will be covering the knowledge gap between software and cybersecurity. To fill the knowledge gap between software and security, we will first go over some motivational examples and discuss the implications of cyber attacks. Then we will dive deeper and discuss how attacks actually happen and explain how they can be prevented. We will conclude this presentation with a research example that discusses automotive vehicle cyber attacks. So let's start narrowing the gap. Since we're just starting 2021, I wish you all a great year. I'm certain many of you consider 2020 an outstanding year, the year of pandemic. Life as we know it changed in 2020. We started using the term new normal, which meant wearing masks, sanitizing our hands, and social distancing. These measures certainly helped and are still helping in mitigating the spread and saving people's lives. The key enabler of social distancing was the internet, which allowed people to stay at home and conduct everything online. 2020 proved to many that we can almost run everything online: work, schooling, shopping, even doctor visits and workshops like the one you are attending today. And while governments were moving things online to fight the pandemic, attackers' interest and chances surged. 2020 is indeed an outstanding year of cyber attacks. Approximately 445 million cyber attacks have been detected in 2020. And in fact, expert believes that the real number is much, much higher, but some gets undetected or unreported. That is a 35% increase in total attacks just in the first 6 months of the year. Some countries, like the USA, reported an increase of 250% of cyber attacks from 2019. Definitely, moving everything online contributed to the increase. Experts say 20% spike in cyber attacks are a result of the virus. 2020 cyber crime is projected to hit $6 trillion. As we are running a huge part of our lives online, cybercrime increases, and it's important to ask ourselves, how are these attacks happening and how can they be mitigated? Computing and internet has brought many advantages, but they also introduce a new method for crime. The cybersecurity knowledge the cybersecurity knowledge gap is no longer an excuse. In this workshop, we narrow the gap by tackling these questions and strengthening our knowledge in cybersecurity. But first, a bit about me. My name is Lama Moukahal, and I am a third year PhD student at Queen's University. Currently, I'm working as a researcher at the Queen's Reliable Software Technology Group, and my research focuses on software security, developing secure vehicle software systems, and software testing. I have 5 years of industrial experience in software development, and apart from the professional life, I love sightseeing. So I guess with the travel ban, you can imagine how much I was enjoying 2020. And I also love water sports. Though 2020 was an astonishing year of cyber attacks, yet cyber attacks are not new. The year was 1999 when Jonas James was 15 at that time, but what he did that year secured him a place in the Hackers Hall of Fame. James had managed to penetrate the computers of a US Department of Defense division. This allowed him to intercept thousands of internal emails from different government organizations, including ones containing usernames and passwords for various military computers. But most interestingly, using the stolen information, James was able to steal a piece of NASA software, which cost the Space Exploration Agency $41,000, and NASA systems were shut down for 3 weeks. According to NASA, the software that was stolen, purported to be worth $1.7 million, was extremely vital. It supported the International Space Station's physical environment, including control of the temperature, and the humidity within the living space. The Melissa virus was a very simple virus which ended up costing $80 million in damages. The virus would infect Microsoft Word documents and automatically distribute itself as an attachment via email. It will mail out the first 50 names listed on an infected computer Outlook email, and the creator of Melissa, who was named David Smith, said he didn't intend for the virus to harm computers, but was still arrested and sentenced to 20 months in prison. And by the way, antivirus software sales increased drastically that year. Another famous attack occurred in 2009 when Gonzalez, a hacker from Miami, was responsible for one of the biggest fraud cases in the US history. Gonzalez was responsible for stealing tens of millions of credit cards and debit card numbers from over 250 financial institutions. He had hacked the payment card network from companies, including the 7-Eleven convenience store chain. Though there's no official reported financial damages, but I guess you can use your imagination and estimate the damages of stealing tens of millions of credit cards. Gonzalez faced at least 3 separate cases related to hacking in 3 different states, and he pleaded guilty in December 2009. Another attack. In 2008, a Turkish oil pipeline mysteriously caught fire without triggering any sensors or alarms, causing a large explosion at the pipeline field. At that time, Turkey declared that the explosion has been caused by a technical failure. And just to give you some background knowledge, this oil pipeline is one of the largest worldwide. It is estimated that the daily profit of this pipeline is around $6 million, which makes it explicitly important for the Turkish economy. Only after 6 years, that is in 2014, a report by Bloomberg revealed that the explosion was well planned and conducted by Russian hackers and not caused by a technical failure, marking this incident as the first world major cyber attack against foreign power that used hackers to initiate cyber attack and requiring years of investigation to track it and declare its sources. Unfortunately, the damages of this cyber attack were not limited to financial and economical impact, but also it left 50 fatalities. Software not only open opportunities for attacks, but can also fail by its own. Well, of course, I don't mean literally by its own. Have you heard the one about the disappearing warehouse? One day, a full warehouse just vanished. Not from the physical view, of course, but from the watchful eyes of a well-known retailer automated distribution system. A software glitch had somehow erased the warehouse existence. So the goods destined for the warehouse were rerouted elsewhere, while the goods at the warehouse languished. This incident caused the warehouse owners bankruptcy, and they had to sell their company. This story has been floating around the information technology industry for approximately 10 years. It's probably legendary, but for the experts in this field, it's entirely probable and common. Why? Because episodes like this happen all the time. Just a few months back, a small software failure resulted in a major disruption of flights at the London Heathrow International Airport. More than 100 of flights to and from the airport were disrupted after the software defect. It affected the departure boards and check-in systems. I'm pretty sure you heard one of these software defects or cyber attacks, and I'm pretty sure you experienced one of them, like the Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp defect that happened 2 years ago and left many users unable to use their services. So what do we learn from these incidents? First, cyber incidents are not new. We discussed the NASA hack that took place in 1999 and the warehouse vanishing incident that happened 10 years ago. Well, this also means that the measures we are taking to secure the system have not been enough and are still not sufficient. Second, detecting cyber incidents is time-consuming. Only after 6 years of investigation, the Turkish oil pipeline explosion was discovered. And this means that we should plan ahead of time for emergencies like this. And we should also work further on our cyber forensic skills, which I'm pretty sure you will learn more about it in tomorrow's workshop, like how to stop an attack from propagating and how to estimate the impact and how to mitigate it. Cyber incidents can happen at the same organization multiple times. For example, the Heathrow Airport faced similar software defects in 2 years. Well, this means that mitigation actions are not being enough. Fourth, but most importantly, cyber incidents can be as devastating, as damaging as a targeted attack. This is well demonstrated by all the examples, which cause financial damages as well as physical damages. All these lead us to one conclusion: better software protection and security should be applied. Cyber incidents' impact are serious. Experts in this field define 5 categories of impacts. Physical and digital harm is one of the most familiar types of harm, and we hear about it often. This can be physical, like bodily injury to employees or customers of an organization, and it can be digital, like damaged or unavailable systems, corrupted data files in an organization, and exploration or theft of sensitive customer data. Economic harm, which is harm that relates to negative financial or economical consequences. And we also hear about it frequently. There are many examples of economical harm, like disrupted sales or turnover, reduced profit, or even indirect losses, like less investment by external parties or reduced customers. Physiological harm is harm that focuses on individuals and their mental well-being and psyche. Though this impact is serious and extremely important, it gets less attention by the media. Cyber attacks can have destructive physiological harm. For example, they can cause confusion by stakeholders, frustration, worry, and anxiety for customers. Reputational harm is harm that an organization may suffer from as a result of a cyber incident. It can be damaged public image or reduced corporate goodwill. Such harm is indirect and cannot be evaluated instantly. For instance, an organization that experiences data leakage may be regarded as insecure or incapable of protecting customer data. By time, such a business becomes one that customers and stakeholders are unwilling to interact or trade with. Harms in the social space range from negative changes of public perception to the disruption of daily lives of the society. For instance, a cyber attack on an Ukrainian power company caused a blackout that affected 700,000 homes, numerous communities, and society as a whole in the country. As the impact of cyber incidents are devastating on so many aspects, we definitely need a solution. This is probably a better security. But to understand how we can secure systems more, we need to ask ourselves how these attacks are taking place. To the surprise of many, the enablers of cyber attacks are the software designers of the target system themselves. That is, for an attack to successfully take place, a software has to fail in one of its tasks. The majority of cyber attacks are opportunistic, with hackers spotting vulnerabilities in a computer system defense and exploiting them. For instance, attackers might find a flaw in the code of a website that allows them to insert their own code and then bypass authentication processes. It could also mean they install malware, which is a software specifically designed to damage a system via vulnerable third-party sites. And although terminologies such as cyber attacks and hackers may raise up images of sophisticated teams of computers experts with high-tech equipment, pouring over lines of code like we see in all movies, but the reality is often quite different. Cyber attacks are much more likely to occur through tedious errors performed by unaware users, like a user choosing an easy to guess password or not changing the default password on something like a router. Hence, there are three major causes of cyber attacks: vulnerabilities, malware, and unaware users. So, what's a vulnerability? Just as you can see in this image, a vulnerability is a flaw that can permit a failure. This is exactly the same for software vulnerability. Software vulnerability is a weakness in the system which can be exploited by someone, probably a hacker. This is done to cross privilege boundaries with the software. In simple terms, a vulnerability can be an error in the way the user management occurs in the system, an error in the code, or a flaw in how it responds to certain requests. One of the famous types of vulnerabilities is structured query language injection, more commonly known as SQL injection. For those who don't have database experience, SQL is used to query and operate database systems such as Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, or MySQL, which usually hold critical information that a website or system relies on. So, databases may hold and store your sensitive information, your credit card numbers, your addresses, your phone numbers, and many other information that you provide to a system or website. Similar to its name, SQL injection is a code injection technique used to attack data-driven applications in which malicious SQL statements are inserted into an entry field for execution. Faulty and poor designed web applications and systems that do not account for the security vulnerabilities are the key enablers of SQL injection attack. So again, we are saying that the enabler of such an attack is the code designers themselves. Consider the example shown in this figure. The attacker injects SQL statement in the URL sent to the web API. The query gets executed and the data requested by the hacker is returned to him. The attacker didn't have to know student IDs for in this example to successfully execute this query. The hacker just needed to add a condition that will always result in a true statement, like 1 equal 1. This condition will always be true. So all the student information will be returned to the hacker. Very, very easy. Accepting such a query is a vulnerability caused by the web application designers. And though it is easy to prevent such an attack, this attack is very common. Another well-known security vulnerability is the buffer overflow vulnerability. A buffer overflow occurs when a program or a process attempts to write more data to a fixed length block of memory. By sending carefully crafted input to an application, an attacker can cause the application to execute arbitrary code, possibly taking over the machine. Attackers have managed to identify buffer overflows in many products and components. The most known buffer overflows attacks, and the one initiated on devices that you probably used, like PS2 exploit, a Twilight hack for the Wii, and lock activation bypass on the iPad. Similar to SQL injection, buffer overflow is the result of fault in the software development, which can be prevented when developing an application while having security in mind. Cross-site scripting is perhaps the most famous web vulnerability. Cross-site scripting occurs when a web page displays user input that isn't properly validated. So again and again, it is the software developer fault. A criminal hacker can take advantage of the absence of input filtering and cause a web page to execute malicious code on a user's computer. I guess that's more explained by an example. Consider a web application that allows users to enter a username that is displayed on each user profile page. For example, take Facebook, though they don't have this vulnerability. You always enter in your username your name, and when you go to your page, you can see at the end of the URL your name there. The application stores each username in a local database. So what a malicious user needs to do? First, they have to notice that the web application is failing to sanitize the username field. Usually happens by trial and error. They try to enter something in the username, like code in the username, and when this is accepted, they know that there is a vulnerability. Once discovered, the malicious user inputs malicious JavaScript code or HTML code or any other code as part of their username, and that will be saved on the database. When other users view the attacker profile page, the stored malicious code will be executed in the victim's session. The malicious code could provide a hacker with full read-write access to browser cookies, browser history files, or even permit the installation of malware. And that is the second type of enabler for attacks that we discuss, malware. So what's malware? It is a malicious software intentionally designed to cause damage. There are various types of malwares, and I'm pretty sure you have heard of many. A virus is a piece of code that inserts itself within the code of another standalone program, then forces that program to take malicious actions and spread itself. Viruses can be spread through email and text messages, attachments, internet file downloads, and social media scam links. Usually, if you got lots of programs and ads popping up when you turn on your computer, of course, if you haven't installed these programs, then this is probably some bad news, as this is an indicator of a computer virus. Ransom denies or restricts access to your own files. Recently, ransom attacks are becoming more and more common in Canada, and it can even hit universities. In 2016, the University of Calgary paid $20,000 to ransom attacker. Killware is a malicious software that tricks computer users into visiting malware-infested websites. It's one of the most common famous malwares, and it usually comes in the form of pop-ups, so be careful. Spyware secretly records your online activity, harvesting your data and collecting personal information such as usernames, passwords, and surfing habits. A Trojan horse is a malicious program that hides itself as a legitimate file. Because it looks trustworthy, users download it. So be careful from free applications that you download online. And finally, adware serves pop-ups and displays ads that often have no relevance to you. Most malwares can be installed remotely or physically by gaining unauthorized access. So again, the root problem might be a vulnerability in the system that is caused by poor design. And if it's not a vulnerability, it's unaware users. The third, but the hardest to tackle cause of attack is a human. An organization's cybersecurity is only as strong as its weakest employee. Unaware employees are considered the most likely cause of an attack to a company. Statistics show that a data breach is more likely to come from human ignorance than a criminal hack. 1 in 4 people has already fallen victim to cyber attack. For example, phishing attacks. We frequently receive malicious spoofing emails that aims to gain unauthorized entry via malicious malware that is downloaded through an attachment or link. Hackers usually target specific organizations, like Queens, for example, or individuals like me and you, with the goal of gaining unauthorized access to sensitive information. If we open the attachment on the email, malware then is downloaded into our computers. And if our computer belongs to an organization, then attackers can literally start searching for sensitive and valuable information. Why this attack often achieves their goal? Because 81% of internet users do not understand the cyber risks. They use software solutions and access the internet without knowing that they might be used as a weapon to cause damages. Moving forward, we definitely need a better cybersecurity practices, and this can only be accomplished by preventing cyber risk. So how can this be done? The key to defend against cyber attacks is security by design. That is, all software should be designed with the core pillars of information security in mind: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Integrity within a system is the concept of ensuring only authorized users can manipulate information through authorized methods and procedures. Confidentiality within a system is the concept of preventing unauthorized access to specific information or tools. Availability within a system is the concept of authorized users being able to access the system. I'm pretty sure you have learned a lot about these principles of information security from the previous workshop. In this workshop, we will discuss how these principles can be assured. Security by design can be accomplished by following any security engineering process. In case you know more about software engineering, which aims to develop software systems correctly and following the customer specification, security engineering have similar goals but all projected toward security. Security engineering is the process of incorporating security controls into the information system so they become an integral part of the system operational capabilities. Hence, security becomes a primary deliverable for the software developers and security specialists. System security engineering goal is to minimize or contain known system vulnerabilities or postulated security threats and to ensure that developed systems protect against these threats. Generally, any security engineering process is composed of three major processes: risk process, engineering process, and assurance process. The first phase, the risk process, aims to manage the unwanted incidents by identifying and prioritizing possible threats and vulnerabilities. So the question becomes how threats and vulnerabilities identification can be accomplished. The answer is very simple: using historical vulnerabilities and threats to predict new ones. All vulnerabilities share similar characteristics. For example, complex code usually takes a lot of time from a developer and might often contain bugs or errors. So complexity in a system is considered a trigger for vulnerability. So what a security specialist will do, they will consider complex code vulnerable and they give it priority and try to validate it properly and intensively. Threat identification can also be accomplished by estimating attackers' capabilities and their interest in the system. For example, if attackers successfully attack a similar system using a certain tool, a security specialist should definitely estimate that this same attack can happen on the system that is currently being developed. According to the risks and vulnerabilities, countermeasures must take place. This starts in the second process, the engineering process. This process runs in parallel with other engineering disciplines like software engineering. It is important to determine and implement solutions that mitigate identified risks in the first process and assure confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Security specification should be well defined, designed, and implemented in this process. The assurance process validates and verifies the implemented security solutions. In this process, a series of security tests run to uncover vulnerabilities and determine whether the applied security measures can defend the system from possible intruders. In other words, in this process, we ask ourselves, is the system really secure? There are different types of security testing methods, and often more than one testing method is utilized to assure the reliability and resilience of the system. Vulnerability scanning automatically runs and validates the system against known vulnerabilities and security gaps. There are many public databases that stores reported vulnerabilities. The most popular one is the Common Vulnerability and Exposures known as CVE. If you check their website now, you will find the list remarkably huge. So vulnerability scanners check whether existing vulnerabilities are present in the system under testing. Then the main weakness of this vulnerability scanners is that they don't cover unknown vulnerabilities or vulnerabilities that are new, which are more critical than previous vulnerabilities that are probably addressed. Static code analysis is a white box testing method that automatically analyzes the source code without running it to identify programming errors. While on contracts, dynamic code analysis do run the program and monitors its execution to determine incorrect behaviors. Similar to vulnerability scanners, static and dynamic analyzers do have some disadvantages. They do catch obvious vulnerabilities, but they might fail to identify more sophisticated ones. But even though it is very important to run one or even more of these test methods, because attackers usually try to find obvious vulnerabilities, it takes them more time and effort and even money to find sophisticated ones. That's why attackers usually seek obvious vulnerabilities. Penetration testing validates the resilience of the system against malicious behavior. How is this done? Security engineers wear their white hats and impersonate an attacker attempting to penetrate the system. Penetration testing is actually one of the strongest type of security testing, especially to ensure network security, which you will know more about in tomorrow's second workshop. Nevertheless, penetration testing requires rare expertise that is usually very hard to find. Fuzzy testing validates the system behavior against random inputs to identify unexpected behaviors that attackers can use to initiate an attack. One of the biggest advantages of this security testing tool is that it is very easily. And just as a note, fuzzying is also used as a method for attacking a system. Attackers start sending fuzzy messages or random messages and monitor the system response. And luckily, if they catch an improper response, they use this vulnerability to initiate an attack. Unfortunately, security testing is time consuming and expensive. Depending on the size of the system, this might even take years. This is why, in many cases, the assurance process is not performed well. Besides developing software with security in mind, governments play an important role to ensure cybersecurity. Governments strive to ensure the safety and security of their citizens. Our personal and professional lives now have gone digital, and though this brings many advantages for us, in many cases we become targets to malicious behaviors that take advantage of system weaknesses to invade our privacy and security. And since safety is a primary goal for governments, they play an important role in protecting and securing the cyber life of citizens. This first starts by securing government system. As we have seen with the Turkish pipeline explosion, cyber attacks initiated by foreign countries are now becoming a destructive weapon. Hence, ensuring the security of any country must include strong cyber security controls that protect the country assets. And since citizens share personal and corporate information with the government systems, like the TRA system, governments shall put in place the necessary structures, tools, and personnel to meet its obligation for cybersecurity. The government shall also cooperate with the private sector to ensure proper security knowledge and make sure that the businesses are capable of implementing the right security measures, which include emergency response action. All businesses should have a solid emergency response in case of a cyber attack taking place. They should be ready to mitigate it quickly and stop its spread. Also, this cooperation is very important and aim not only to protect the organization, but also aims to protect the private sector from the employees of the private sector from malicious users. As you all know, employees share with their organization a lot of information which should be well protected following the Privacy Act. The most important role government plays is awareness raising. As we discussed earlier, many hackers take advantage of unaware users to establish an attack. Hence, the security of citizens cannot be guaranteed without arming them with the basic cybersecurity knowledge. There are various methods used to increase awareness of cybersecurity, including the security awareness posters like the one you are seeing in this image, security awareness ads, and free training. In my opinion, definitely starting at school is a good idea to ensure a well knowledgeable generation. So, after discussing the countermeasures we can take to defend against cyber attacks, where does cybersecurity stand? Though there are many genuine efforts toward enhancing cybersecurity and mitigating threats, cyber attacks and incidents are on the rise, not only in one type, but almost all the types. The year 2019, for example, witnessed 350% increase in ransom attacks, 250% increase in spoofing attacks, and 70% increase in spear phishing attacks. And the numbers are not expected to get any better. On the contrary, cyber attacks are expected to rise even more. The only way to stop the dramatic increase is cyber incidents is by investing more and more in cybersecurity research. With the Internet of Things, or as commonly known IoT devices, almost everything is connected and vulnerable to the attacks. Your smartwatches, wearable health monitors, household appliances like microwaves, stoves, your TV, and so many other things. Just in 2020, we reached 50.1 billion IoT devices. This includes various technologies and devices with integrated code and connectivity. But different systems might require different security measures, which makes cybersecurity more and more challenging. And at the same time, hackers' interests and capabilities are advancing quickly, which increases the challenges. Hence, we need more and more researchers and security specialists, particularly women, to strengthen the resilience of systems against cyber attacks. Get ready to explore a research area. But first, an out of topic question. Who is interested in owning a car like this? I'm raising my actual hand, and you can raise your virtual hand if you like. I'm actually very interested in this car, and certainly I'm not the only one. BMW is one of the most selling car manufacturers around the world, and one of the main reasons that make it one of the most wanted cars, other than this beautiful design, it is its safety procedure. BMW is well known for its high-tech safety features that are embedded in almost all their cars. If you go now and check their website, you will find many statements that shows how seriously they take BMW's drivers' safety. They provide you with different features, like lane assist, that increase your safety by automatically keeping your car in the same lane. They also provide lane departure warning, which will automatically make sure that moving from one lane to the other is safe. So we really got good assistance while driving, and this is definitely can decrease the collision which means we can drive safely on the roads. So who wouldn't want to buy such a car with amazing design and intelligent safety features? Of course, I'm not a marketing expert, so I'm not trying to sell you this car, but I'm trying to tell you that marketing do not always say the complete truth. And what might be your dream car and my dream car is actually not as safe as advertised for. BMW cars' computer systems have been found to contain 14 separate flaws. According to a study conducted by a Chinese cybersecurity lab called the Keen Lab, they discovered 14 different vulnerabilities that can facilitate different types of attacks. BMW verified all the reported vulnerabilities in 2018 and they solved them all by 2019. BMW is certainly not the only car manufacturer suffering from cybersecurity incidents. Currently, there are many reported vehicle cyber incidents. And as we move toward driverless vehicles like the Teslas, the number is increasing even more. This is really scary. Have you heard about the Jeep Cherokee cyber attack? It happened in 2015 and caused the Fiat to recall 1.4 million cars. Cybersecurity concerns cannot be tolerated given the safety critical environment where connected autonomous vehicles, or as commonly known CAVs, operate. A cyber incident of a vehicle can leave the safety of drivers, passengers, and pedestrians under question. Embedding code, internet connectivity, sensors, radars, and cameras definitely made vehicles capable of recognizing its surrounding environment. Vehicles became smarter and skillful to take decisions by their own and address current road issues. Thanks to software integration, vehicles now can detect surrounding objects and avoid collision. They can detect mechanical problems to prevent any glitch or malfunctioning that can lead to devastating results. In case of emergency, vehicles can make prompt response more feasible. They utilize sensors to assess the situation and communicate information to the nearest medical center and police station. And vehicles are capable of enhancing the traffic flow and congestion by routing cars properly. Smart and future connected autonomous vehicles will be capable of analyzing traffic information and even communicate with other cars to understand the congestion condition and take routes that are less congested. All these features and functionalities definitely increase the safety of connected autonomous vehicles and make road driving much safer. Yet, this comes at a cost. Software integration and internet connectivity expose the vehicle to cybersecurity risks, which jeopardize the safety of drivers. We have seen together many cyber incidents and software failures like the vanishing warehouse. So what if this happens with a vehicle that is on the road? Software integration in modern vehicles increases the potential of attacks. Current automobiles may hold at least 10,000 software defects. And just for your knowledge, the number of lines of code in your vehicle is much larger than any line of code of any operating system. Those defects open the doors for malicious behavior, as we have discussed earlier, and they can even take control of the vehicle. And while you might think a mechanical device knows nothing about you, this is definitely not true anymore. Some vehicles record your movements, your home address, and are connected to your phone. While all this collection primary objective is serving you better, it puts your privacy under risk in case of any data leakage. So, to answer the title's questions, are connected autonomous vehicles, or commonly known CAF, safe? If proper measures are not taken and cyber incidents are not mitigated, then the answer is no. With the many advantages that software integration and connectivity bring, we definitely don't want to drop driverless and connected autonomous vehicles. But we just need to make them more secure. But this requires a lot of research, as vehicles operate differently than any regular PC or software. During CAF's lifetime, broad range of end users interact with the system, and not only one organization or user like other systems. Users with a variety of backgrounds, knowledge, and expectations interact with the vehicle system to run, update, customize, and maintain its features. Cabs can contain more than hundreds of electronic control units, which runs the software code. All of these ECUs are bridged together and exchange information to provide some services or features. But they bring another complexity to manage this huge number of electronic control units. Vehicle software systems are sensitive. They are not only responsible for running and providing a certain functionality like other systems, but they are also expected to ensure the safety of drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. Moreover, vehicle software system contains heterogeneous subsystems. They don't run one unified system like in other applications. The vehicle system is composed of different subsystems like multimedia and telematics, the body software, and the safety software. Finally, unlike most software systems, vehicle software systems are exposed to different communication means, including Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and vehicle-to-vehicle communication. There are different steps that we have to take to make vehicles more secure. Starting with the initial phase of software specification. The goal of vehicle manufacturers should be producing a system free of predictable security issues, which we called earlier in this presentation security by design. Manufacturers are required to adopt the best practices that can defend the vehicle from malicious behavior. These best practices are usually identified by researchers in cybersecurity. And since CAVs are still new, to tackle the cybersecurity challenges, different car manufacturers should share vulnerability information. This way, if one attack occurred in a vehicle model, it can be prevented in other models. But of course, with the race of selling between different car manufacturers, this becomes more difficult. The government also plays an important role in making connected autonomous vehicles more secure, starting with regulating data collection concerns such as ownership, access, and use. Data collection should be limited to information that can help providing better services while implementing strong security measures that protect the data from untrusted entities like attackers. Regular checkups should also be performed to make sure that the security measures that are placed are still reliant. Security measures can become weaker by time when attacker capabilities advance. For example, we always hear of new tools that facilitate attacker jobs. If this is the case, then attacking the vehicle becomes easier, putting more risks on the passengers. And as you know, the lifespan of a vehicle can be very long, like 20 years. So security measures should always be checked. And last, but not least, vehicle manufacturers advertise for the creative and original functionalities in their vehicles, but they do not inform us about the risks of these functionalities. And they keep people unaware that chances of controlling users' information by untrustful entities increase. This should definitely stop. Governments, as well as the private sector, should help drivers to understand better the emerging technologies related to connected and autonomous vehicles and how to interact and use these technologies safely. So let's sum it up. In this workshop, we learned that the key enablers of cyber attacks is vulnerability. Vulnerabilities are introduced to the system as a result of poor security design. Another enabler of cyber attacks is malware, which is a software developed specifically to cause harm. We have discussed many types of malware, including virus, Trojan, spyware, and ransom. And last and most critically, the critical enabler of cyber attacks is unaware users. that do not understand cybersecurity risks. So I hope after this workshop, you will definitely not be one of them. We can definitely defend against cyber attacks by adopting security measures during all the phases of software engineering. We have discussed the importance of security assurance and the different types of security testing, including fuzzy testing, penetration testing, and vulnerability scanning. To protect against cyber attacks, we also have to raise awareness and empower people with the cybersecurity knowledge, which is usually the government and organizational jobs. Even though we are trying to develop systems that are resilient to cyber attacks, the cybersecurity field still requires a lot of research. New technologies are emerging, like IoT, cloud computing, and connected autonomous vehicles. And at the same time, attackers' capabilities are advancing. Hence, to ensure proper security, we still require intensive research. So, most importantly, we need more cybersecurity researchers, especially women. Only 10% of women make up the cyber workforce, and we are hoping that this will change. We hope to see more women leading this industry and providing a better cybersecurity. Before moving to the QA session, I would like to remind you about the cybersecurity program agenda. Do not forget to attend tomorrow's workshop. The first will start at 2 p.m. by Awista Shudari, who will be delivering a very interesting workshop entitled A Hacker, a Detective, and a Cop. To know more about the grad school, please join the Career and Grad School panel taking place on the January 22nd. We will be happy to answer all your questions about the grad school. Most importantly, do not forget to register for the Google CSR Cybersecurity Case Competition. It will be held on the 23rd of January, which is next Saturday. Lots of prizes are waiting for you. All what you need to do is attend these workshops and you will be ready to win. Please note that you have to register separately, but the competition is a teamwork. You will be automatically placed in a group to solve the cybersecurity case together. At the end of this competition, each group will be asked to give a 5-minute presentation for a group of adjusters. Lastly, but actually most interestingly, do not forget to attend the talks of powerful women in cybersecurity field on January the 18th and February 1. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and got excited about cybersecurity research. Thank you all, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Hi, everyone. Does anyone have any questions for Lama? Thank you, Lama. That was wonderful. Very interesting. Does anybody have any questions before we end? Oh, there we go. Okay. So Lama, just give me a second because they're all blocking my question here. Regarding the multitude of data breaches regarding LOT, would you have any LOT devices?
Vehicles are also considered IoT devices, and I have a smartwatch, which is also considered an IoT device. I do have IoT devices, but it's important to know that IoT devices have critical cybersecurity issues. And I mean, it's important for us to be aware of this in order to know how to manage them and how to deal with IoT devices. I'm not pretty sure if that's your question, and if it's not, please give us a note.
Okay, we'll just go to the next question in case Vivian would like to add to that question. So how did you get into cybersecurity and what do you enjoy most about the field?
How did I get into cybersecurity? Well, that's a good question. It all started in my master's degree when I get to know more about computer security. And when you know more about computer security and hear about all these incidents, you get excited to get more into this field and try to improve things. That's why I applied to the cybersecurity program at Queen's, because I wanted to improve things and try to enhance cybersecurity.
Okay. Next question. What are steps to have a job in the cybersecurity domain or research?
It all starts with a degree. So grad school is actually a start. You can apply to the grad school and the creative program and get your hand in cybersecurity.
And also, too, the internships help, right, Lama, for
Yeah,
our
exactly.
students to find work, because usually when you go on your internship,
Yeah.
they usually keep the student, and transfer them
Yeah.
into an employee role.
Yeah, definitely. Last summer I had an internship in a company called Irdeto, and I got to know more about cybersecurity, and it was very interesting actually.
And it's good to network during your internship. It opens up a lot of doors for you when you're ready to enter the workforce, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, next question. What are the challenges you face versus the challenges men face in this field? That's a great question. Katrina?
Wow, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any difference, but I will definitely say that there are less women in cybersecurity than men in cybersecurity. So that's one thing. So sometimes you have to prove yourself more because you are different than the others. You have to prove yourself more that you are knowledgeable and capable of being in this field.
Do you think, though, that being a woman would have an advantage when you're entering the workforce?
Definitely, because uh, we are the minority now in cybersecurity. As I have said, 10% only of women make it to the workforce. So we need
Right.
to make this number higher.
And I'm sure employers are trying to fill those numbers.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, next question. In the security engineering process, is it usually one group who takes on all three roles, risk, engineering, assurance, to work through the problem, or is it outsourced to specialized teams?
That's a very good question. It works both ways. It's either in-house, they try to do the security, or they employ someone from outside the company to try to make the security of their software more solid. And I'm not really sure if you're asking whether each phase has to be specialized by different security specialists. Different fields. So you'll definitely need a specialist in security testing and specialist in vulnerability identification, for example, and a specialist in implementing security measures. So the field is very wide, and you definitely need different employees taking roles to ensure the security.
Here's a similar question. What can women bring to the field?
They can bring many things. As I've been discussing in the presentation, we still need a lot of research to make everything we are working with and is connected to the internet and has software embedded in it more secure. So this is really wide and open. We can contribute in many things and making systems more resilient to cyber attacks. So in anything we can contribute.
What do you do as a cybersecurity researcher?
So as a cybersecurity researcher, I was trying to give you a hint of what I do by presenting the cybersecurity challenges of vehicles. I'm specializing in the security of vehicle software systems. I'm trying to enhance vulnerability identification in vehicle software systems and security testing for vehicles to ensure that they are ready to go to the road and operate safely and resilient to cyber attacks.
Great. Here's an interesting one that would pique my curiosity. What is the link between cybersecurity and targeted advertising?
I didn't quite get the question. Like, how is cybersecurity linked to the targeted advertising?
Targeted advertising.
So when you choose targeted advertising, this means more and more data is collected about from you. And when more data collection is done, this is definitely increase the vulnerability because they know more about you and more data is being stored in some database about you. So if any data leakage happen, then you will definitely be affected. If you are sharing less data, because when you don't want specialized advertising, then you don't share a lot of information with the web browser, so you are more secure. That, I guess, answers the question.
Yes, very good. Thank you. What program were you in, Lama, for your undergraduate study?
Undergraduate?
Yeah.
I was doing computer science.
Computer science, okay.
It
But we
starts
do
from
have other students, right, that join the CREATE cybersecurity program that come from different faculties, right?
Yeah, true. I guess Awista comes from a different field. You will be attending her workshop. She's presenting a workshop tomorrow at 2. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. What are the chances of getting an internship in cybersecurity with no certifications and currently an undergrad in computer science? So they have no certificates, but they're currently in the undergrad program in computer science.
I guess probably you would be able to get like a junior position in an internship. This will let you know more about cybersecurity, and at the same time, this might be feasible. But definitely, like in undergrad, they are now giving cybersecurity courses, so you do have some initial knowledge, so it is possible.
And what are certifications to have a good level in this domain?
There are lots of certifications that give you a good level in this domain. As we've been discussing in these 2 workshops, the cybersecurity field is very large. So there are various types of certification depending on what you exactly want to certify in. So there are certification for malware identification, security enforcing. So it depends on what really you want to certify in.
Here's a question that could probably take you all day and all night to answer. Can you inform us about practical methods to secure our systems?
Yeah, that's a very long. Okay. So I'm putting some tips for you. I hope you're reading them. These tips will definitely help you to increase your security, your security. And the important measures that you should take, definitely strong passwords. Never use public internet connectivity for a very long period. And if you're doing so, probably it's a good idea to use a VPN. Always install something that you know. Don't install anything that you find online. And if you get a pop-up, don't directly click on it. You should really look into it before clicking on it because this can be a virus. So yes,